Okay, in our last lesson, we left off with the chart of accounts that was in the advanced section of account and settings. So we're going to go ahead and pick it back up where we left off. The next section here is categories. We're going to go ahead into that. There's two main ones here that we're going to talk about. First is tracked classes. Now, classes are different than tags. Classes tend to be departments or say product lines that you have that you want to be able to specifically track your income and expenses for those departments or product lines. It's a little bit more robust than your tags. And these will be able to populate on your forms, your expense, your POs, your invoices. So if you want to track a class, you just toggle that on. Now, what will happen is if you don't track each transaction that you have by class, then what will happen is when you pull a report by class, there will be a column to your right that will just have your general expenses or income that did not have a class assigned to it. That may work for what you're doing. However, you can click on Warn Me when a transaction does not have a class. That will pop up and give you a little warning. And that's very helpful to make sure that if in your company you need to have everything tracked by class, that is warning whoever is entering your information that you have to assign a class. Now, you can have each one of these as just one entire transaction, so you're not able to break out say an invoice by multiple classes. Each expense has to be in one class. If that's the case, then you would hit one to each rolling transaction. If you want to break this out, you may have say payments that go to a vendor that go to multiple departments. You would want to then have each row so that you can break out that bill by each class that is in there. The other part here that shows up is locations. This really is if you are having multiple locations, and I mean physical locations, although you can utilize this for other things, but it's primarily for physical locations. Say maybe you have 3 stores and you're going to want to be able to track each store. You would click that on. This is also a great feature to add with class. So for instance, you do have retail stores and you have certain product lines that you want to track the profitability on. You could set up your classes for your product line, but then also track that by location. It's an add-on feature to that, so you can really get detailed in and be able to track that by each location as well. Now, you can just do the general label here. QuickBooks gives you certain names. You can choose the one that best serves your needs. So that's your categories. Now we're going to move down to our automation field. Again, we're going to go into the edit feature. And the first one here is pre-fill with previously entered content. QuickBooks and their AI feature remembers things. So if you want the previous information, so for instance, you are paying a certain vendor, you always pay them a certain amount for a certain category. What will happen here is if that's toggled on, it will automatically pre-fill your form, saves time, You may change the amount, but all the categories and information, such as address, terms, those will already be pre-filled for you. Great feature. Toggle that on if that's what you want. You can also automatically apply credits as well to your invoices, if that's what you want. If you have a credit to a certain customer, and when an invoice is generated, it will automatically populate into that invoice. Just toggle that on. If you don't do that, toggle it off. If there's unbilled activity that you have set up for certain customers, if you click on the automatic, you will have features here that you can have. You can automatically create invoices for your customers that don't notify you. It's just QuickBooks is going to look for all the unbilled activity, generate an invoice for you, and it's just going to be there automatically. It will also, you can create the invoice and then notify you to make you aware of it, or it can just remind you that there's some unbilled activity and you need to create an invoice. And then of course, you can set up your schedule here, how you want that. If you want to be automatic, just let QuickBooks do all the work for you. You can set it up right here. It'll automatically send an invoice out to your customer on the specific criteria that you set up here, and whether or not it notifies you or not. And then the last one is whether or not you will automatically apply your bill payments. So if you get an invoice you've already paid, your bill payments, you can automatically apply those to that or not. So those are the features for automation. QuickBooks allows you to set it up once, not worry about it, and let it do the work for you. This next part is projects. This will only show up if you have more of the advanced version or the plus version of QuickBooks Online. And so you can either set the projects on or set them off. Very simple. Again, only shows up if you have that version of QuickBooks that you can do projects in. Currency. You can set up the different currencies. QuickBooks is a worldwide product, and so it has a lot of different currencies that it operates in. They have a bunch of them in here. If you want to run your currency in different other than US dollars, then you can do the drop down, find it. Hopefully it will be in there, most likely it will. And it will run in QuickBooks properly for that. You can also do multi-currency in here. So, and again, once you turn it on, you can't turn it off. That's just the way QuickBooks has it. But you can run multiple currencies within QuickBooks Online. Say you have offices in Europe and the United States, you can run the euro and the US dollar at the same time, depending on which accounts you have. So there's your currency feature. And then the last portion here within QuickBooks is the other preferences. And we can change the way the date looks. You can go through different ways that it will generate on your forms. If you have a preference, find it and do the way that you want. Number format, again, different ways to do your number format. pick which best is for you and your company. And then a customer label. This is how it actually shows up. Depending on the type of industry you're in, you may call your customers customers. Service industry tends to call them clients. You may do an Airbnb or manage, short-term rentals, and they may be your guests that show up. Doctor's office may have patients. Again, QuickBooks gives you a few options here to automatically label your customers a certain way. If you're using check numbers, if you toggle this on, then it will automatically warn you if a duplicate check number shows up. Now, if you're using the sequential feature in QuickBooks, that should never happen, but things happen, maybe a check run, you had to void some checks, and all of a sudden now you're off the sequential run and you accidentally put the same check number in. And what this will do is QuickBooks will warn you, hey, that check has already been used. Good feature, just a fail-safe. And if you're using the bill section of QuickBooks, you got billing numbers that you use. Again, you can turn that on or off, whether you use that. If you're utilizing the journal entries and you have specific journal numbers you use, if you toggle that on, if a journal number that has already been used is in there, QuickBooks will warn you. And then the last feature here is sign me out if I'm inactive after an hour, 2 hours, or 3 hours. What that does is it goes into the lock screen. You'll have to sign back in. If you haven't used QuickBooks in an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours, it's just going to sign you out. It's a good security feature to make sure that it's just not up and running so people can see it. Well, there is your advanced section of account and settings. Important that you go through here. Make sure you have the features that you are wanting to utilize turned on or off. And so that is it in account and settings. And in our next lesson here, we're going to move on into managing our users.
I gotcha.